Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Today we're bringing you our second review of Oath. This is really our first review. The first one was...
First impressions. Very different things.
Now, it was about 3 games deep when we were doing that conversation, and we're about 7 games deep now.
I think we're pretty qualified.
5 of which you could watch actually on the channel. 4 publicly, 1 privately over on Patreon.
And the 4th is coming soon.
This one will come out before the 4th.
The 4th one is on the way.
And on the table right now.
Well, I mean, don't look too closely, but we just finished up another gameplay, and we've given it a few weeks between the last few plays. We came back to the table with it. We continued the campaign. The Chancellor, who had overthrown...
With like an 81 dice roll.
Wanted to make sure that her story was told, and so... Let's go ahead and start talking about this. We don't really have a hard review format. We usually do like a right for you, wrong for you, or a best or worst, or something like that. Instead, I just kind of want to have a conversation, sort of Board Game Co. style, on what we like, don't like, could see others not liking about this game, and then, of course, get to our revised review, like the ratings that we're actually going to give it after some space, some time, and many more gameplays. Now, for context, we have played this game at 3-player.
Exactly.
We've played this game
Reads
together.
my mind.
You can watch our journey throughout it. I have heard differing opinions
on 4 and 5.
Depending on the group, depending on the player count, and depending on the channel that you're watching. These are our opinions.
Yeah, of course.
Right? That being said, let's talk about what we like about the game so far.
Okay. You want to go ahead, Jira?
Sure. I like the...
Not much to say.
I like the asymmetry.
What do you imply?
I like asymmetric games. I like it when certain factions feel more powerful than others.
Or overpowered.
I just forgot. The audience doesn't, if they're just watching this...
They might not know what Oath is.
I understand we've done like 7 videos. Jane, could you give us a 60 on it real quick? I'll actually get the...
the timer.
Just to prep. Sorry about interrupting you there. You can start back on asymmetry right after 60 seconds have passed.
Hello and welcome to Oath, a game of Chronicles and Exile. In this game, you are either an exile or a chancellor, 2 incredibly asymmetric factions all striving to win the game. However, winning the game is not necessarily straightforward or implicit when the game starts. The Chancellor starts with everything they need to win said game immediately. However, the Exiles don't. They can take away that winning condition from the Chancellor, or they can create their own winning conditions depending on visions that they draw throughout the game. And what you're doing in the game is a few things. You're building a tableau, building up some type of resource engine, area control, and a little bit of backstabbery and prediction with all these cards that are going to and fro, right? There's a lot of things to consider in Oath, but on your turn, you're going to have action points that you're going to be able to spend in order to move to a different site, in order to campaign against other players, in order to collect certain cards and also play cards to certain areas. At the end of certain conditions, either by the Exiles having 2 full rounds of controlling something.
I'm sorry, Jen. The 60 seconds is over.
I was so close to finishing, too.
Well, go ahead and finish. I'll just...
At the end, if an exile is able to, in 2 turns, have their own personal victory condition completed, they win the game. If not, the Chancellor will have 3 dice rolls that they'll be able to do to try and win the game before the end game. And that's pretty much it in a 1.20 nutshell.
The remarkable thing about this game that Jan didn't quite hit on is the fact that it has a save system. This is a game that remembers itself after you complete a victory. The next play that you do, the person who won will be the Chancellor. The oath that they won under, the vision that they won with, will be the victory condition for the entire table. It will be the public play system. The denizens that remained, the advisors that stayed in their court, the type of favor they had with the people, and the locations on the map that they controlled will all be part of their kingdom, and you'll reset, save, and then bring the game back out as if you'd continued playing from the last play session.
A game that remembers itself.
I literally said that 30 seconds ago. Shira, you were talking about the asymmetry.
I like asymmetric games. The Chancellor feels very, very powerful. The Exiles and the citizens kind of have to gain power throughout the game and build themselves up before they can actually take down the Chancellor. It's a slow building process. I think the Chancellor starts out strong and then tapers downhill and struggles to maintain, while the Exiles and citizens work their way up and there's like a crossover point. So I think that's about the asymmetry. I like the artwork.
Oh, Kyle Farron's amazing.
The artwork is gorgeous.
This is incredible. This is his best work so far.
The cards are, every single card has individual artwork. The game components, the coins have heft. The books are engraved and feel like a book. It's the dice are all
They have
individual.
weight. They're really lovely.
Yeah, everything is.
The meeples are
really,
amazing too.
Meeples are amazing. They match the player boards.
Mm-hmm.
Albeit,
You're a little ugly.
did you compare this one to me?
I did.
Am I recalling that?
They won't.
At a certain point
joke.
of bitterness, yes, I think so.
They won't hear the joke though until they watch it. But yes. So I like all those components, the artwork. I like how the game really plays into each other. Everything you're doing is really, you're hyper focused on your one goal. Whether you're the Chancellor and struggling to maintain your win condition, or whether you're an exile and you're trying to become a usurper, or whether you're a citizen and meeting the successor to the Chancellor's condition. Everyone, or even going for a vision. Everyone has a goal in mind. Everyone is working towards their own goal. Mm-hmm. Sometimes teaming up with other people to help accomplish it.
For me, it's going to be the variable win condition. I think that's something really novel that I don't tend to see almost ever in games. Usually in Euros, you have pathways towards the same victory condition. Yeah. I'm not very familiar with war games, or could be war games that are more conditional in that sense, but I really like how they brought it into this system, right? So definitely going to be the multiple victory conditions. I'm also a huge advocate of the artwork. I think it's fantastic. Probably one of Leader Games' most beautiful titles, and Oath is beautiful in my opinion as well. With that said, I think that one of the strongest elements for this game, that Jesse, you're probably going to touch on this 100%, is going to be the tableau building. I like the strength of cards that is within this system. But I'll leave that more so that you can talk about it in depth.
It's humorous when one card shows up in every single game.
I mean,
if a card is destined for you, hey, I watched Yu-Gi-Oh!
We don't go through the entire deck, yet one card
I'm
hiding goes through every single game.
I trust the heart of the cards, Shira.
Gets it.
Listen,
trust of the heart of the cards.
The tableau building absolutely establishes a narrative, not only in the actual game itself, but from campaign to campaign, where you have cards that you hate, where the deck starts shifting in favor of the monarchy that has been ruled. Where, I mean, I guaranteed if we'd done more Discord or went more Nomad, the gameplay would be slightly different than it has been, while still feeling the same in its framework. And of course, the powers, abilities that you were mentioning, the stuff that Alex always loves to talk about, there are so many moments where you drop a set of cards and you're thinking to yourself, I can't give this card to her. Mm-hmm. That card's perfect for me. There's a maniacal laugh chortling up out of your throat, and you play down a card, discard a few, and the people around the table go, no.
It's also tight. You're only allowed to have 3 advisors here.
Tight.
You're constantly deciding, okay, which one of my 3 do I want to give up, because this one is just so amazing. And then you're also trying to take into consideration...
You have a shifting tableau, which I think is probably one of the weirdest things about this.
You also have to take into consideration what cards are out, what banks have money, who's manipulating those banks that never have money ever again, and shift your whole game.
Yeah, it's the nature of a tableau that you control, and then a tableau that everyone else on the map can interact with through area control is really cool. Powers, abilities, they change hands almost every stage of the game.
And speaking of changing hands, I love the resource, the resource generation in this game is quite interesting.
It's really simple but fun.
You might have had an alchemist every single game. That allowed you to get a lot of resources.
But I do like how you're able to kind of shift the resources around, how you're able to influence a particular one depending on how hard you go on a certain faction, how players are able to kind of almost create like a stock market type of feeling to it depending on how many cards are on the board. All of those are going to start stacking in one particular faction or suit. I've really enjoyed that. And also... the puzzle that gets created around those advisors and the matching sequences that need to happen between site cards and advisor cards, right? You need to have certain colors schemes there, but that also makes you vulnerable to other elements in the game, like maybe the darkest secret, right? If one person has a single one of the 3 cards of the same color that you have, they can take it from you, or just by being on a site with other colors, you're completely out of the game, especially if the rest of the war has been created in a different way.
Well, and the one thing we haven't hit on much that I reminded you of after your overview, the save system here really is remarkable.
Yep.
It does feel like a game that...
You save it.
Yeah.
It's a trick, though, because it's like, you once said this, you're just setting up the game as you're putting it away for the next time. It's not necessarily that it saves time or anything like that, but it feels like you're doing something different.
The game does grow. It does develop a bit. The win condition being variable, the person who's playing,
the edifices that go on the board.
You can carry the narrative through it. Yeah, there really is some significant interest in the way that the board starts transforming. Yeah. And I don't know that it changes the game. But if you're listening to the narrative that you're playing, it certainly does start scripting something.
100%.
I was watching, like, Shut Up and Sit Down's review was talking about how this is, like, a storytelling game that doesn't have any flavor text in it at all.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is pretty remarkable. I mean, the combination of art and gameplay and the way that everything ties together and the actions and abilities you have and the little bit of flavor text here, the names on the top of the card, all of that starts spiraling. I mean, the game's remarkable. The game is absolutely brilliant. What?
Brilliant, but
what?
But shall we segue into the things we don't like?
We're never going to play again.
Oh, is that the title of this video?
Yes, it is.
How corny for you
to use that
I
know.
Phrase.
So bad.
Listen, let's get into the elements of the game that we don't like.
Okay, sure.
Dice rolling. I just jumped in. This game can be determined by a single dice roll at 1, 2, 3 different points in the game. You can literally roll, the Chancellor can roll purple die and can determine game end.
Oh, that's a die roll you were referring to.
You could literally be planning for needing 2 more turns to overtake the Chancellor, and he's like, oh, stinks for you.
So
die.
I still don't mind that mechanic.
Let's explain. I've been more and more bothered by it as the game goes on. Let's explain how that works. So the game is going to last a total of 8 rounds with the exception of the last 3. There a hierarchy of dice rolls starts to trigger to end the game by the 8th round and add a little bit of luck or variability into the potential win condition for the exiles, for the citizens, and for the Chancellor. You're going to be rolling a single purple die. On the 5th round, you're going to try to get a 4 and above.
Nope, 6 and above.
A 6 and above. On the 6th round, you're going to try to get a 5 and above, and on the 4th, 7th, 8th round,
7.
I'm so many numbers. The trick is that it's going to be getting harder and harder or easier and easier for whoever is in charge at the end of a turn sequence to win the game. It comes down so often in so many of our gameplays to I've set up, I've taken my actions, I've made my shot. It was remarkable, beautiful, strategic.
But now the game has to end or he's going to take it back over. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't leave room. It doesn't leave room for you to feel like you took victory. It doesn't leave room for you to feel like it paid off.
Some victories feel very hollow.
Incredibly hollow. And, I mean, here's the thing for me. This, for me, is the sign of a game that knows it should end and can't figure out how. It is. It's the game saying, I'm going on too long. We're going to throw a dice just to see if we can quit. Like,
you would have lost. You got a 1.
You would have. And then it force stops you at 8.
Yeah.
It unlike Oath, where you're trying to, or unlike Root, which would be the comparison for leader games, where you're trying to hit that victory point trajectory, and the game can last infinite amount of time depending on how the table is playing. This one didn't figure out a clean solution for the players to be in charge of the ending of the game. And it gave it to a dice roll, and it feels and steals the victory so much.
One of the things that I'll add about this that I didn't mention in like my positives is that this game is incredibly thematic. It's like you said, this is telling a story, and because of what the game is trying to be, I don't mind the dice roll. Do I enjoy it in terms of mechanically in a game system? No, I do not. But it does play correctly into what the designer was trying to do.
The other thing I included when I mentioned dice roll that I didn't talk about were the defense dice.
So ridiculous.
These defense dice, if you have 4 or more...
And the rulebook says this.
The rulebook states it. If the defender has 4 or more defense dice, the attacker should be terrified. So the attacker should not bother attacking. No matter how many orange dice they have, each defense dice has a × 2 ability. So if you
that multiplies itself.
Yes. If you get a 2 shields and a 1 shield, and you have even 2 × 2, so it's 3 × 2 is 6, 6 × 2 is 12.
Yeah.
With 4 dice, you can get 12 defense.
So let's explain this a little bit more. When you go head to head, the battle system is dependent on what you're targeting, how many regions you're going after, whether you're going after relics, banners, regions, pawns themselves, or the war bands that your opponent has. They'll be rolling defense against you based off of battle plans, and you'll be rolling attack based on how many units you're attacking with. There are battle plans that modify, but the game admits that 4 or more should be terrifying. 4 or more should be terrifying even if you're rolling up to 12 fighting
Attack
dice.
Yeah.
And the
I
game
think I did roll 12.
and the game even admits this by only giving you 6 blue dice to roll and a total of 10 red dice. I mean, it's half and half, and it still says, like, it doesn't apologize that this should be a threatening force. The issue with this is that it creates scenarios where the win condition is dependent on the dice roll, and the dice roll, when it comes to math, even if you spent every resource you have, is probably just not going to work out.
Yeah, it's not in your favor ever.
We had, by this time, if they've watched the campaign, they know that we had a scenario where the defense roll was 80.
1.
Which is ridiculous.
81.
And the attack roll, while it was a good, legitimate attack,
It was 20, right?
it was
Yeah,
20
it was
something.
20 something.
And
It's a lot.
There was no reasonable way to come back from that.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I don't know. I feel that when games are getting to those extremes, something must be off. Because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why would that be enjoyable for anybody at the table? It's just that I understand why it might happen. It's just not fun.
And I get that there's a puzzle, and people that like this game will argue that you can circumvent some of the cards or the luck, or you could plan appropriately, or do things like burn all the books or steal all the coins. But the game only lasts 5 rounds before a dice starts triggering endgame. 5 rounds is, while you can do a lot in this game in that time, is not enough time to overcome bad luck. The game doesn't give you room or freedom to overcome shooting your shot and having it stolen from you.
And speaking of shooting your shot, I think that's one of the things that, although is interesting in this game, is not something I enjoy in this type of game. Like, I had mentioned this already in our first impressions, and it doesn't necessarily have changed too much. But somebody compared this to Black Orchestra, where Black Orchestra is a cooperative game where everybody's working together to try and take down the Nazi regime. Literally, that's it. Like, you're trying to take down Hitler, and you only have a single opportunity in the entire game to do that. And if you fail, you failed the cooperative game, which is thematic, right? I don't like that rigidity in this style of game.
It feels like it, though. It feels like each player has one shot,
One
and
chance.
then if they
a single miscalculation.
If they achieve their one chance, then they have to defend it for an indefinite amount of turns after that, and that's when they lose it.
Your one shot includes all those future turns. You have to guarantee it.
Here's the thing. The one shot is the only shot you get to steal victory for yourself.
And then afterwards...
But guess what? I get 3 shots to choose who I'd like to give victory to.
Yeah.
Yep.
The game has created more moments
Of
king-making than I think I've seen in most games.
I think...
Especially games where we're playing as a group.
Yeah.
We don't actually want... Like, we'll admit and laugh at king-making, but all of us are going like, well, if I do this, I'm giving it to you, but if I don't, I'm giving it to her. I don't want to do any of this.
Yeah.
I want to back off from the turn. I don't want to...
There's no way of giving it to yourself.
No.
You're choosing between the two other players
Often.
to give it to. Very often. And that just, it feels so hollow for the victor then.
I think out of the 7
empty.
games we've had, I would say 3 or 4 of them have been immensely hollow.
Yeah.
And then other ones have been random or lucky or funny. Funny is great. Like, funny is hilarious. Like, you keeping and taking, really, really funny. But I gave the victory to you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, in a way. And the dice roll stole the victory. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what I'll say about this game so far for me, this is more of a political piece. Like, it's a statement of how empires, like, literally the rulebook states it, chronicles of the rise and fall of empires. This is more of an experience and a sandbox that you get to kind of see in a consolidated time frame how that feels. I don't find it enjoyable as a game.
I don't think you're playing the game.
Yeah, no. The game is playing you.
I think you're watching a story unfold,
It's very thematic, very, very varied, a bunch of really cool things.
You get to help tell the story every now and then. You get to, like, read a line in the chapter, like, write a little note on the side, or remind people that, like, remember the field that was down the alley and how they built a fortress there that never did anything?
Yeah.
You get to join in that narrative. But it's like we're a bunch of old men sitting around a bar retelling the story of history as it's happened. And that's really cool.
And messing up some of the details.
It's really cool. But it's not a fun game.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. 100%.
If I was going to sit down and write the campaign that we just had, which we actually did for the introductory for our games, that's fun. Like, you talking about how you were, like, when you wrote your narrative, talking about how you overthrew, how you were the daughter of the queen.
Illegitimate daughter.
The daughter of the queen. The queen died, and her stepfather became the king and banished her to exile. She came back, and she was the rightful heir, took over the throne.
The game tells that story.
Yeah.
And as you say that, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. But we didn't have fun while we were playing that.
Yeah, 100%.
You had anxiety panic attacks at the end of every game.
Being the Chancellor is so stressful, and I continue to feel like
compare that to other, like, and you just played Exile.
Yep.
We don't need to go into details. They haven't seen the gameplay yet, but compare that to other games, because I'm curious why this brings about
such a visceral
reaction of anxiety from you.
It's the level of...
Because it brings about disenchantment from me.
It's the complexity of playing all the moving parts that you need to take into consideration as you're the Chancellor. There's so many little cogs and gears that are kind of turning slightly, and you have to understand, like, how people are building their tableaus. You have to understand your tableau. You have to create safe zones. You have to make sure that people are not getting close to your condition. You have to know what they're playing as their own visions. There's so much mental upkeep that you have to do in order to be a successful Chancellor. Even though it might feel like impossible to beat them, they start with everything in hand, but they still have to know when to show that hand and when to keep it.
Did you feel that as the Chancellor?
Yes, I felt like there was a lot to remember and pay attention to, and, like, your emotional reaction was panic, anxiety. Your emotional reaction was just disinterest. My emotional reaction was frustration. I want to be able to feel like I won a game through my skill, through my thought process. And yes, there can be a little bit of luck. I do like some dungeon crawlers that have luck in them, but I still feel like I'm making choices.
See,
and that misses a key component here.
You mentioned, like, disenchantment or disgruntlement from me. It's because I lean into the idea of just being like, oh, great, well, it's a story. So in the very first gameplay, I'm sure, and I haven't seen them yet, but I'm sure there's going to be comments of people frustrated with my last 3 turns where I'd done everything I could to win, and then decided, fine. I'm just going to keep thrashing at you like a despondent vagabond, because I expect the game to end right now when you roll your dice, and it didn't.
Yes.
So I've given up my turn. I've given up the game. The narrative that I think is funny and I think is good is me just being this weak, pathetic little loser who continues running at the king and being bowled over again and again. And people won't like that, but for me, that was honestly it wasn't me just giving up on the game. It was honestly the thing the game was telling me to do, and so I did it.
You leaned into it.
Because I didn't see a good way to continue enjoying and trying. And we're a lot of games deeper now.
We're a bunch of games.
And that's been the case. Anxiety, frustration, and disenchantment has been the case.
That should be the title.
Over and over again.
Anxiety, frustration,
of at least one of the gameplay videos.
Has anyone considered Oath to be fun?
I've had fun moments.
Yes, I could say that.
I've had remarkably fun moments.
I've had fun moments. The cards are still like, ooh and ah at some of the cards. But I could have rather spent the past few hours doing so much more fun things.
I would say, for me, Oath is not a fun game. And I play games to enjoy myself and bond with the people around me. And I feel that Oath does the exact opposite of that, just because of the nature of it. Because of the political experiment and the conceit that it's trying to share with you. Which is, politics are messy and it's unfair. It's you likely won't get what you want.
And the funny thing is, I'm trying to remember back to the preview that we played, like back in the day, because we were very enchanted by it. Yes, And I think some things have changed, and I'd love to go back and almost flashback and see, and even play the old version. The victory conditions have changed to a degree. The way you get things like the people's favor and the negotiation, I felt like there was more strategy over. When someone stole something, back then it felt like it was stolen. I remember victory around the dice only happened, the game was longer. And I remember victory around the dice only happened once in that, I think, 4-part campaign we did.
Offering citizenship has become more common as the game's progressed as well. The Chancellor did not offer citizenship that entire first game and possibly the second.
All three, actually.
Yeah. You had to take citizenship.
I'm just trying to think. I was trying to think to the preview. The battle system and the luck system changed from a more mathematical based.
100%. It was very, very different.
A mathematical based war system that was actually working off of. And I know you didn't do this, so this is less interesting for you because you weren't there. But part of me feels like I need to address why this isn't hitting the same way the prototype that we played, that we really advocated for, did.
It was arranged, right?
It was arranged. So it was based off of an old school war system where you had a mathematical difference, and a certain percentage up would benefit you a little bit more and a little bit more, and it was always working against. So you could really strategically know when I had the advantage or disadvantage. They tried to do the same thing with the dice rolling, and I just don't. Maybe the numbers are the same.
×2 is ridiculous.
It doesn't feel the same here.
So ridiculous at ×2.
The cards have been developed. The tableau system is about the same. The regions is about the same. In the prototype we were playing, I believe there was 4 regions. I want to say.
I don't remember. I feel like
there was. The
board was completely different. It was different directions. Like it's changed so much.
But either way, okay. What can we see before we get to the rating system? What can we see other people not liking or liking?
Randomness of dice rolling. If you don't like dice checking.
Is there anything other than what we didn't like that we could see other people liking or not liking?
Things being overpowered.
Yeah.
Some abilities
balance issues.
Yeah.
I would highly encourage people that have made it to this part of the video to genuinely go over and watch the Shut Up and Sit Down video. I don't often agree on them when it comes to reviews and games. It's one of the things that I learned as a brand new board gamer. I fell in love, enchanted with their content, and watched all of it when I first got into the hobby space. I'm so grateful for the way they've walked me into this space, but I've learned that my taste in games don't often match up with theirs. So when I saw their review come out, and they're glowing on this, saying that it might be the best game of the year.
You were like, of course.
I knew it. Like it was just another feather to say it doesn't match with you. It's not what you're looking for in a game. And if you don't agree with what we're saying, or you're curious for another take or a different perspective, because board games is all about the way that you and your group are experiencing them, I'd go watch their video, contrast it. They're a fair voice in contrast to what we're saying. And I don't think they're wrong. I just think they're different.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of struggle with Oath is that this is a mean game. This is a game where you can take everything away from another player that they've spent the entire game building up to. And you can lose everything in a single game. So it's not just that it's mean, it's also incredibly unforgiving. Yeah. And I know a ton of players that just stay away like the plague from titles like that, because that's just not the way that they want to interface with their friends and family.
So let's get to it.
Recall your ratings.
Yeah, we're gonna go through ratings. So let me explain them.
So are we gonna do a 1 to 10, or are we still sticking to our numerical decimal?
1 to 5, where we always rotate up to a full number, but decimals give us nuance in the conversation, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So the way this works, this is Board Game Co.'s rating system. We've taken it on because we do a lot of work with him. I keep mentioning him. We might be very close friends. 1 is a awful game.
Yes.
2 is a game that's good.
But not for me.
Like, I don't want to play it, period.
Yep.
3 is a game that's really solid. It's a really good game. I'm not upset if I don't play it. I'm not upset if I do play it.
Yeah.
Like, if you ask me to play it, I'm going to play it. It's a good game. 4 is a great game. It's it is a really great game. No caveats. 5 is a game that I think differently of you if you don't like it. If you come over and you're looking at my shelf and you go, oh, Terraforming Mars. Not really a game for me. Shira and Alex look at me and they go, oh, we can't be that good of friends with you.
Yeah, you're not invited back. Yeah.
So let's dig in. The original ratings from our first impressions from 3 games in, I had 3.2 to 3.5.
Yep.
Okay. With the idea that it
could grow to a 4.
Yeah. Could grow to a 4. 3.8.
3.9.
Okay. You always like going last, so I'm not going to ask you. Jan,
I'll
do you
go
wanna,
first.
You want to go first?
I'll go
Okay.
first.
Oh.
Well, then
Okay. I got it. Do it.
What do you think I'm rating it?
No. You say it. I'll tell you if I got it right or wrong.
This is a 2.
Yep, I was close. I thought it should be a little bit higher.
Yeah.
I think this game
So it's
can...
dropped hard.
Yes, I think this game can be for some people. If someone asks me to play it, I will give a hard pass. I'd rather go take a hike. Go take a walk.
You're not playing this
I'm
again.
not playing this again unless I have to, unless thousands of dollars were being thrown my way.
Shira, we're twinsies.
I mean,
I'm also giving a 2.
Unless the audience demands.
No, I don't care.
They
I
cannot,
really.
they
Nope.
cannot
Nope.
give enough money. They would
Nope.
have to take us to 10 million subscribers.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Exactly.
that's a
That's
little bit.
I mean, look, I'd do it for a couple hundred subscribers.
No.
You know.
Oh, you have a new friend group then. Go play with the audience.
Why? Why does it drop so hard? Because you were enchanted by the game.
I was enchanted by the game, but I just got so dejected and frustrated. Like, I can't win. Or if I do manage to win, it's because you gave me the game, the dice gave me the game. It wasn't me constructing
never
an
you doing it.
interesting tableau. It wasn't me managing the cards, the win conditions appropriately. None of that.
And that's obviously personal, but it does feel like that.
I like to make choices in my games. I like to feel like I've thought through. I've created a puzzle. I found a solution to the puzzle. And I don't always win all the games, but I like to feel a little creative and intelligent sometimes.
Yeah.
This game made me feel dumb.
Yeah, like I spoiled. Sheer and I are twinsies on this. I've been thinking about it. I was like, do I go on my decimal value? Do I just go on a round number this time? And I think this does squarely fall at a 2 for me. This is every single aspect of this game beyond components and elements is just not for me.
I can't call it a bad game. I can't give it a
It's not.
1.
It's a brilliant. Like Jesse said, it's a
really
brilliant game.
And I can't do anything higher than a 2 because that would mean like I wouldn't mind playing it again. I would mind playing this again.
I don't enjoy experiences for games. I have video games for that. I have walking simulators for that. Heck, I have VR for that. I don't want to sit down and go through an automated process of trying to tell a particular tale. It's not what we had the same debate with Nemesis. I think this and Nemesis actually fall in the exact same realm of style of games that people can get into that are more experiences than they are a actual, to me personally.
I would never call Nemesis a bad game.
Of course, it's not a bad game, but to me it's more of an experience.
Oh, he's rating this lower than us. He's rating this lower than a 2.
No, that's not what I said. I was just clarifying. Like I would never call Nemesis a bad game.
We didn't call this a bad game yet. Are you about to call this a bad game?
But I would call Nemesis way more of an experience.
Yeah, 100%. And this is right there with it. And I actually... no, I don't agree with that.
has more control.
I was going to say that. I don't think I agree.
I think it does.
I don't know if I agree.
I'm
judging it.
I think
but
I think the nature of Nemesis.
helps.
I think the nature of Nemesis being a cooperative experience against the game board gives you more control over the experience.
Sure, I was going to say it. I just didn't dare to say it.
I feel like I have more strategic choice. Like this would make me feel like Nemesis might in fact be a game.
What is your rating?
Yeah. So.
Are you gonna go for a 1?
It's sort of anticlimactic, and I was trying to think of a creative way to do this. Like,
He's gonna do
3. I think he's a 3.
no, I was
I think he'll
gonna think of a creative way to do this. I was gonna say something like, I'm gonna give this a 4 because it's a brilliant game. I think this is a great game.
Yes, you are playing this again?
No, that's the
Fours
thing.
you don't
That's
mind
the thing.
playing.
Like
Fours you would say I'm excited to play again.
I can't, for the sake of how remarkable this is, take away that. There has to be commentary, like both of you did already, on the fact that like
Not for us.
It does incredible things. There's a reason Shut Up and Sit Down have it as their potential game of the year, and I honestly, I think they're probably right.
For their audience,
This
for
is
their
this
opinions.
is a hard 2. It has to be. It's not a
2.
It's not a 1.8.
2.
It's not a 2.3.
2.
It's
Across
a 2.
the board.
All
All
aggregated
dropping.
score.
All
We
dropping.
all drop.
Yep.
I dropped the most dramatically. You dropped the least.
So we went on talking for so long that the memory card ran out of space, and there was
Apparently have things to say.
hard cut on this. You were just finishing a line saying we all gave it a 2, and that's just where this game is. It's where it has to be.
Yeah.
The game I can't take anything away from what they've done, but it just isn't
For us.
what has delivered is too random.
It is
It's
a solid,
too
good
open-ended.
game for me.
Exactly. Same here. And that's I wish we could have given it something higher because we just talked about
Maybe
this.
I actually Shut Up and Sit Down loves it.
Yeah.
Like other people will love it. I can see why people will love it. I don't feel bad about saying that it just didn't hit.
It's fascinating because we were so enamored with this before, right? And enamored with this before, and how this has transformed into something that is just not for us is such a fascinating dichotomy.
I think some of the promises that were there in the prototype remain here. I'm still enamored with the idea of a game that remembers itself.
And it does.
But
legacy games do the same thing.
Not in the same way. Games do it in a way that destroys and continues the narrative, and
it never comes back.
This one does it in a way that allows you to reset to 0 or replay it. It saves in such an ambient, interesting way.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fascinating, and it is different. It does feel different.
I hear.
But for me, it's
games.
it's been a year and a half since the prototype, and so much development has happened on elements of the game, and I'd have to check, but I just don't feel like the balance and the promise of strategy ended, like made it. I don't think like they made it. Yeah. Other things did, and I'd argue that there's probably like the game we were playing back then probably wouldn't have gotten the praise that it did from other people.
Oh, one thing I just noticed. When we played that game back then, we played with 4 and 5.
We did play with 4. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's... At the end of the day, like it can change that substantially.
As we watch this grow on BGG, what people will rank it best at.
But I don't think it changes the things we have a critical problem.
The experience
I think
itself.
In our original review, in our original first impressions, we had a lot of people saying, "Well, you're playing it at 3. I can't believe you think the Chancellor's overpowered." In our experience, he's been very weak. At 4, at 5 players, and I get that. It doesn't change the die roll. It doesn't change the nature of the asymmetric, the shifting tableaus, the resource generation, the game driving itself to end, the variable victory conditions that feel like you have to hand them to someone. Mm-hmm. It might change who is trading power and who's keeping power. It might change how powerful the Chancellor feels. I don't think it changes the nature of what the gameplay experience is for me. I could be wrong. I really don't think I am.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm burnt out on Oath. I don't care if it plays better at 4 or 5 right now. I'm done with the system in itself. I'm happy we tried it. I'm glad we gave it a good,
I don't regret the plays
shake.
we had.
I don't regret it. I mean, it's bonding experiences for all of us.
If it came or unbonding experience.
If it came out with an expansion, would you try it again?
Nope. I wouldn't.
I would really want to know what the expansion does.
I'm curious.
Oh, if it changes this, maybe.
I was just curious. I thought about what happens
if
Root has come out with some expansions. I think Leader Games is capable of creating expansions, and I'm just wondering if they might have an expansion in store, what it might do.
Yeah, I am fascinated by the system and the promises Oath make. I still am. It's just this. It's not for me.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, this is our subjective opinions based on multiple plays, right? So if you don't agree, that's totally okay. That's why, as Jesse said, you have Shut Up and Sit Down. Other people that have
I would encourage people to contrast this
100%
review with theirs and come to their own conclusions. Whatever the case, whatever you do,
remember to do the important thing.
Yeah, get out and play some games.
Or swear an oath.
And for those of you that have made it to this point, the 4th gameplay, it is a lot of fun to watch. So maybe go take a look. We'll see you next time.